Why would a young nurse be so terrified when she laid a U.S. Marine on the hospital bed? And what she did next was something no one expected. This is a shocking story about a young nurse and a young U.S. Marine. You'll enjoy hearing the full story. Make sure to watch the video till the end. A young nurse was discharged after saving the life of a U.S. Marine. 24 hours later, she received a surprise invitation from the president. On a rainy evening at City Hospital in New York, 26-year-old Emily had no idea that her night shift in the emergency room would change her life. The emergency room was overcrowded. 2 serious cases had been admitted shortly before her. Shift began. Shortly after midnight, there was a moment of calm, like the silence between 2 waves. But suddenly, the double doors crashed. Cold air and rain filled the room. 2 completely soaked paramedics pushed a stretcher inside. On it lay a young man, covered in blood, injured, barely conscious. Code Red was called. One in his mid-20s, no ID, severe chest injuries, possibly shrapnel wounds. Blood levels are dropping rapidly. Emily stepped closer. The man's face was barely recognizable, smeared with blood and dirt. The remains of his uniform were torn. His combat boots were half off, but Emily's gaze fell on a worn dog tag. L. Jackson, a U.S. Marine. "He's from the military," someone whispered. "No ID. No radio. No cell phone was found near the harbor," explained the paramedic. The room froze. "We don't have clearance. The head nurse said he could belong to the federal government." Emily was stunned. The man was dying. His pulse was weak. His breathing was shallow. "He'll be gone in 10 minutes," she replied firmly. "We don't have any time." Despite the lack of permission, Emily took over. "Prepare the dream room. I need one. Pack of oxygen and plasma immediately." Her determination tore the team away. They brought the Marine into the room. Emily followed, ready to act. Blood was flowing from deep shrapnel wounds in his chest. Vital signs: blood pressure 70/40, oxygen saturation 81 and falling. Emily was completely focused. She gave clear commands: scalpel, clamp, suction. Her hands worked precisely. She removed the shrapnel. The heart was beating regularly. "Stay with me," she murmured. When he suddenly stopped breathing, she began resuscitation. She didn't give up. Charger on 200. Shock, nothing. Another 250. 50 shocks, then 1 beep. "He's back," the technician whispered to Emily. She breathed a shaky breath but continued working. She stitched the largest wound, inserted a drain, and stabilized the lung. Her hands were tired, but she didn't stop. After half an hour, it was over. The room was silent. The blood bags were empty. Emily stepped back and took off the gloves and looked at the man. His eyes opened faintly. Their gazes met. His lips moved. "Thank you," he breathed. These words struck Emily deeply. She had saved him. He was alive, but outside, reality, regulations, consequences waited. Emily had crossed boundaries, she knew that. The rain had stopped, but the sky over New York remained gray. The emergency room had become silent. Only the hum of the fluorescent lights remained. Emily stood near the recovery area, her fingers tightly gripping a styrofoam cup of coffee that she had refilled 3 times but hadn't drunk. Her clothes were wrinkled and stained. Her bun was coming undone, but she didn't care. Through the small window of Trauma Room 3, she watched the sleeping Marine. His chest rose and fell evenly. He was alive alone. This fact filled her with silence with all her might, satisfaction against all rules. Despite all adversity, she had saved him. Her decision had made a difference. An announcement called her to the office of the administration conduct manager. Frowning, she set off. She had expected criticism, perhaps a conversation. But the voice sounded cold and final on the way she encountered nurses who looked away, doctors who avoided her. The office door was open inside. Sat Helen Dryden, the administrative director, and Dr. Warren, the hospital's general counsel, and Emily stepped forward. "They wanted to speak to me." "Sit down," she said, Helen without a smile. "What you did yesterday." was commendable but completely inappropriate. You acted without authorization. You cared for a classified patient without a briefing. Without consulting superiors, you understand the legal risk this entails. Emily was stunned. He would have died. Dr. Warren cleared his throat. This hospital has protocols. If we had known he was a military personnel, there are ways, emotional motives. May be understandable, he added. They believe it was about feelings. I acted according to my training because no one else did anything. Helen looked at the clock. You are an excellent nurse, Emily, but rules have their purpose. Then it came. You are dismissed with immediate effect. Everything went blurry. Emily only heard the ticking of the clock. I saved him, she whispered. And we appreciate it, said Dr. Warren emotionlessly. But the decision is final. The conversation ended without further words. No escort, no thanks. Emily walked dazedly to her locker. Her ID dangled limply from her hand. Her name tag, Emily Reed Rarn. She packed her stethoscope and a pack of mints into her bag. No one said a word. Only a colleague gave her a faint smile. Outside, it was quiet. No wind, no rain. She stayed on the curb. Standing on the stone, she looked up at the hospital, a building to which she had dedicated years, that she had now simply passed away. I only saved one life, she mumbled. Then she turned and left. The sun had barely risen over the rooftops when the first SUV pulled up. In Emily's quiet neighborhood in Queens, that was unusual. When the second, third, and then the 10th black SUV appeared, it became quiet. Children looked out the windows. A jogger stopped. Upstairs in her apartment, Emily sat with a headache and lukewarm coffee. The rooms were small, cozy, full of textbooks and photos of her. On her lap lay a dog, tag belonging to her deceased father, L. Jackson, a U.S. Marine. She had kept it after the rescue. It didn't belong to her, but she felt like a symbol of the life she had saved, for everything that came after. A sudden, firm knock tore her from her thoughts. Not a neighbor, not a parcel delivery person. It must have been Stern. Emily flinched, put the cup down, and crept barefoot to the door. Through the peephole, she saw a man in a black suit, with a tie, sunglasses, motionless. Two other men stood next to him with earplugs and shiny shoes. Was that a joke? The police. Slowly, she opened the door a crack. Miss Emily Reed. The man in the middle even asked. His voice sounded formally rehearsed, reserved. Yes, she croaked, still in her washed-out gray pajama pants and a crumpled T-shirt with a faded blue bird. Hello, I'm Agent Porter of the United States Secret Service. You are expected at the White House. Emily blinked. Excuse me, where am I supposed to go? He repeated it more slowly this time. The president would like to speak with you. What about Agent Porter? Tilted her head slightly. I'm not allowed to tell you that. Behind him, one of the other agents touched his headset. Then he nodded curtly. Emily leaned against the doorframe. Are you sure you have the right person? Yes, ma'am, it's urgent. We'll escort you now. I'm not even dressed yet, she stammered. You can change in the vehicle. Then Emily's thoughts raced. She had just lost her job, and now the president. She looked at the badge in her hand, her heart pounding. She grabbed her bag and hurried into the bedroom. 2 minutes later, she came back in a denim white blouse and a quickly tied ponytail. Her hands were shaking. The agents stepped aside. Neighbors stood outside. Some acted as if they were watering flowers. Others openly watched from windows or behind windshields. A little girl waved. Emily gave her an uncertain smile and then climbed into the SUV. Inside, it smelled of new leather. The tinted windows didn't allow a view outside. The water level in the holder was untouched. The agent in the passenger seat turned around briefly. We'll be there in an hour. Emily nodded silently and looked out the window as they left Queens and drove towards Manhattan. There were no sirens, no lights, just silence, urgency. Her mind was racing. Why did the president want to speak to her? Had she done something wrong? Was someone important to the Marines? Was she in danger? She held the badge tighter. It felt cold and heavy. She closed her eyes and breathed deeply. They drove onto the highway. The traffic avoided them, as if it were natural. Up above, she thought she saw a helicopter. After 30 minutes, she asked. They said, "The president wants to speak to me." "Yes, ma'am." "Why?" No answer, just the hum of the engine. "I was fired yesterday?" She said, "If that's anything—" "It's nothing disciplinary," he interrupted. "They didn't do anything wrong, but that didn't calm her down. She had saved someone and was fired for it. Now the White House. The convoy left the highway and drove into the security zone. The cameras tracked her every move. Checkpoints opened. Finally, they rolled through. The iron gates. The White House appeared before them, majestic and intimidating. Emily became nervous. She knew it from books and films, but now it was real inside, holding their footsteps on the marble floor. Everything seemed too loud to real paintings of important men looked silently from the walls. A distant voice explained architectural details, but Emily wasn't listening. 2 employees led her on in silence. It felt as if they knew that something important was about to happen. In her pocket, she still held the identification badge, L. Jackson, U.S. Marine. She hadn't let go of it since that night. It was more than metal. It was a connection to the moment that had changed everything. They stopped in front of large double doors.